Hello and welcome to the Canary Academy. Okay, this is a video to have an introduction and like an onboarding process for all the people working or collaborating with the Canary. Firstly, I like to go through the aim of this presentation, and it is to achieve alignment and clarity. Alignment, as in everyone understanding the standards, speaking the same language, and nurturing a common culture. And clarity, as in the way we can trace the status of projects, the way we can identify who's accountable and who's responsible for every action, and that would allow us to improve, like have a constant improvement, um, to then be able to compete with other bigger firms. So let's get started with the basic understanding of project. Okay, the normal scenario is a client that needs some outcome. They have a site, or the project is related to a site normally, and the site has some characteristics because it's in a particular context. Now, from the client, we create what we call an account. So our client and account are interchangeable concepts. Then, from the site and the type of construction, we have a type, and we'll see how do we classify those projects into types. And then for, for the outcome based on the context, we can define some stages of the project. So knowing the type of project and the stages that we need, we can create a pipeline that, together with cases, and cases are sub projects that are out of the normal procedure, or the normal process of the project, the things that are necessary, and we explain in the next slides. Together will create what we call a project. So we go one step backwards, and we get to understand services and the categories of services we offer. Now, normally, and the core of the business is architecture, and normally linked also to project management. In some occasions, we do construction, but only um, small renovations and fit outs. We also do consultancy in some cases where we give our advice or expertise for different reasons. And since the production team are normally producing 3D models and plans and graphic design, we also offer some digital services to other companies. Then we also have a category which is like general sales, because there are some cases where we resell certifications, or we resell a book, or they are miscellaneous. Okay, let's talk about now types and stages, and then go to pipeline cases and projects. So, okay, types. It is very important for us to classify correctly the projects and to put them in boxes that repeat themselves. Now, it would be quite impossible to list all the variables, but one way we can do is to classify by use. Adding three variables. One is to classify by use. So it would be, for example, commercial and institutional, or residential, which is the majority of our projects, industrial, or mixed. Also, we can classify by the type of building or construction, so by typology. So it is an apartment or tenancy, or one single building, or town housing, high rise, secondary dwelling, and then by scope. What is the how far are we going, or what is the nature of the service we providing? Then stages are um, like steps interrelated, and in a sequential order, that has to happen to achieve the desired outcome, which is normally the completion of the construction. Now, we classify into three different groups. One would be pre-approval, and these are the most common, but we get into detail in the internet. We have a glossary, and the outcomes of each stages and the protocols of each stage. Then we have approval, and this depends on the type of project and council. That's why we classify in the projects in detail, and and then post approval, which are normally related with construction and the final certification. Now let's talk about a pipeline. A pipeline is a sequence of stages for any given type of project, and as we said before, it's a sequence of stages, right? So, okay, we have in this case is an example: preliminaries, schematic design, design development, DA, and construction certificate. It will go to construction most likely. Um, each stage will have an activity set. Are normally are very standard. Like for example, in the preliminaries, create the project folder, contact the client with the brief, schematic design, and get an approval from the first three options. And this also will you'll get details on the intranet on how to do. I mean, what are normally the common activity sets. Another thing that we have on the stages are milestones, which we normally aim to predetermine at the beginning of the project and are related to payments and billing and lodgement in council and stuff like that. Now, cases. Remember, we mentioned cases is because on this on this path, the most natural thing that normally happens is that we have random circumstances where council or the client or a neighbor ask us for to do something else. For example, obtaining a certificate to open the road, which is in itself a project, or the client ask us to do a revision of the design and he wants to do a variation from the program, or we need to deal with the neighbors around the building to convince them not to object to a proposal that we put in council. So all these type of random things are of course unpredictable from the beginning of the project, are essential to the project success, and are considered as a sub-project linked to the main project. They are not stage dependent, so one case can go through across different projects, but it is important that we know at all times if we're working on a stage of a project or we're working on a case of a project. In order to maintain clarity of the billing and the internal project management. Now, we introduce another concept which is missions. And missions are a group of tasks that we do regularly, like on a daily basis normally. We normally do it on video, and they can target what cases or stages or whatever. Um, and it's just the way we communicate tasks. But we get into project management and task management later on. Now, um, let's talk about the tools we normally use. Okay, we are in the Google environment, so we use contacts and Gmail and calendar. But most importantly, we use a lot the login credentials, which are the login for pretty much every other application we have. Now, the center application is our CRM, which is Insightly, and this is not accessible for everyone. It's normally accessible for the account managers, but it's the place where everything starts. Like we create a project in here, and then go to the server, which is Google Drive, and then create the clients in Zero for billing. Then in tracking time, it's the tracking the time tracking application. We also create projects and tasks according to Insightly CRM, and Asana is also for project management, etc. Now, business structure. This, I think, it's important that everyone have a brief understanding as to see where everyone is sitting. So the core of the business is the delivery aspect of the business, which we divide into four parts. One, the main, is production, where we actually do the job. Then we have resources where we have templates, and we have a library that supports the production. Then we have accounts, which is the part of the business that deals with the clients, and is the kind of the middleman between the production and the client liaison. And then operational is just the aspect of the business that we use to communicate between each other. Now, then we have business development, which is normally like in any business, sales and marketing, and Kaizen, which is a Japanese term that means like constant improvements, and it's something that is part of the culture that we trying to constantly improve our procedures and our activities and our documents to get more efficient at what we do. Then we have the admin part of the business, which is quite the boring part, legal and tax, accounting, and this part leads with nothing related with architecture, just that the business run properly in a profitable and legal way. Now, if we now mix the roles, um, let's talk about the roles. Like we have one we have is collaborators, and collaborators are people who just work or are related to the canary briefly. It can be consultants, or it can be some extra support on marketing, or maybe someone to do a 3D model. And then we have the producers, which is the core of the business, the people who actually do the plans and design. Then we have the account managers, who are somehow the managers of the producers, or are the ones who deal with the clients and statutory or institutions. And then we have the assistants, who are helpers to all of us on mainly on administration and bureaucracy. And then we have the executive, who is in charge normally on the administration aspect of the business. Now, the same thing, but from a two-role perspective, is that the collaborators will use normally the operational folder in Google Drive, and Asana, which is the project management tool we use. The producer, who are the people doing the plans, again, the production folder with all the projects, and operational, where we communicate to each other, passing instructions, and Asana, which is kind of the same, but we introduce here checklist, and we can see in a graphical way. Then time tracking is very important to have the understanding of the, the status of every project. Then we have the account managers, which is the same, but they start using the CRM and the assistant, and then the executive team. Finally, I like to go through a few concepts that I think that are crucial for us and for the running of the business. Now, procedures. Every single action that we perform has to be classified, and that might sound very strict, and that doesn't allow to flexibility, but in reality, the concept behind is that we don't want to reinvent the wheel every time we have to do a Word document or a report or a letter. However, we want to put all the efforts in our resources into the content on that letter. That is why we make a big effort on making procedures being a standard thing, same as with pilots, same as with McDonald's, and this way we can systemize and we can speed up all the processes. Now, documentation is the same, only from the document point of view. Every document we do has to be classified as a document type. There are many type of document types, from tendering to letters, statements, invoices, bills, but we make a special effort on drawing types, since it's the core of drawing types and construction related document types. Now, all of these have templates and or checklists, and, and also we have some standards. And this is probably the thing that we should start at the beginning of the presentation, but we leave it for the end, because just to give a global vision. Now, the standards which can be found on this intranet in the general tab of the intranet. First is that we have our own vision and values, and it will be explained in there. How do we name things? How do we name files? How do we file things? What's the difference between a document and a file? Versions, dates. How do we abbreviate, or what are the codes, like for example the stages or the services? How do we um, perform work so it's easy to trace, it's easy to audit? And how do we manage complicated situations? How do we manage information? How do we behave on or at work? All this will be, it is published in the website, and it have to be part of the basic knowledge of the company. um, this is expected from everyone to know at heart, and I hope that this presentation wasn't too boring. You can watch it as many times as you need, and any questions, you can contact me directly to ask or to comment or to disagree, or just to talk about this overview. Thank you very much. Bye bye.